If you're looking for some straight-up marketing advice that's super chilled and also a bit of a laugh, then grab yourself a drink and get ready for Marketing and Margaritas, a podcast that makes marketing entertaining. Brought to you by Rebel Nation, direct from regional Queensland.
Hello and welcome to Marketing and Margaritas. Today, Jade and I are joined by Fiona Kroll from Coffee and Hops Photography to talk photos for social media. And just photos, really. Yeah.
Well, I think, we've got some good tips in general about photos, but specifically we really are looking at getting that visual content for your social media, because it's one of those things that obviously, Instagram most of all, but even the others, they're so visually based. Yeah. A good image goes so far. And getting your own photos all the time sort of thing, it's like I'm shit at it. So I definitely didn't do this podcast so that I could learn more about this for me and my business. This is to help the listeners.
Of course it is.
Okay, so before we get into that, Coffee and Hops. When did you get started? Why did you get started? What's it all about?
So I think I got started about 7 years ago as a bit of a side hustle.
Did I meet you before or after you started it?
After.
But you started before Rebel Marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were both
a year or two?
We were both still at council.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So without going into who my former employer was,
I already dropped that one.
I was in engineering.
Which is so related to photography. Natural
so
segue.
Related,
I can see how that worked out for you.
Yeah. And when I started engineering many, many, many years ago, there was a creative element to it, but I suppose that as technology evolved, etc., a lot of that creativity got taken out of engineering, and I suppose I started the photography as a bit of a side hustle to get that bit of
that outlet,
creative outlet.
Yeah.
And then due to former career, my mental health started to take a real dive real quick, and so I ended up thinking, I'm really quite enjoying this little.
I remember when you were thinking about it, and I was like, leave.
Yeah.
Because I think I had left while you were still at council, and I left.
That's right.
And I was like, I've done it. You should do it too. It's great. I'm doing it right now. I'm loving it.
From her spare bedroom in her pajamas.
Yes. Which was
it
also
was fucking awesome.
Yeah, which was also quite the draw card.
Fiona's like,
If I could work from home in my pajamas, the fact that I'm here and having to be dressed is.
I know. I do appreciate the effort.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And then, because I'm very, very risk averse by nature, to leave a full-time job to then go and work for myself.
And now you're just fucking killing it, man.
Was a bit crazy. And now looking back, I'm like, I really should have done it quite a lot sooner.
But to be fair, you did it, and so many people don't take that step. And dude, you are so nailing it. You're doing so well.
Yeah. And I found something that I'm actually working more hours than what I was full time, but I don't necessarily feel like that. I mean, there's you own a business. There are days where dealing with people is quite shit. And
but I own a photography business where I get to be out on a Sunday afternoon fucking doing photos and stuff when I'd rather just be curled up with a margarita.
Exactly. You definitely don't, as a photographer, you definitely don't have a weekend anymore. Like I saw a meme recently of like a guy in front of this like board of Post-it notes and threads and everything, and it's got me trying to explain my schedule to everyone I know.
That's right, it's like the conspiracy wall sort of thing where it's all like, and this is how it all comes together. And everyone thinks you're crazy.
Yeah, and for the first, probably up until a couple of years ago, I was still getting questions like, are you actually doing all right? Because photography probably isn't necessarily something a lot of people think that you could make
as a full-time. Well, and to be fair, I think there are a lot of people who do photography as a freelance thing because they enjoy it. And so it's like a bit of a hobby thing, but they would not think of taking it full-time sort of thing.
No.
Whereas, to be fair, you do design and web and other stuff as well. So it's, even though photography is like very dominant in what you do other things to supplement it too, which from what I can tell, you enjoy.
Things like COVID. come in, and that diversification obviously helps.
Or rainy season and stuff, like you've still got that ongoing work. And
But
stuff.
like also your passion, am I correct, that started in pet photography and you've branched out into a lot more areas now. You don't just take photos of pups.
No, and sadly,
Sadly, no.
I suppose a lot of my photography work does include dogs in some way. If I could just have it that all I did was photograph dogs,
Yeah.
then that would be obviously ideal. But
and cats. Truth hurts, man.
cats are very difficult to photograph, but I will do them. But if I could just make a living out of photographing, let's say animals, because horses are okay too.
Appreciate.
Then obviously that would be perfect.
Goats would be
I
good.
have chickens.
Chickens are
Branch
good.
out to a different area.
Chickens are good. I've photographed chickens before. They're really good. They're actually better than cats.
All right. They're brainier than chickens, that's why.
I suppose the next best thing is that really kind of got a following of people who want to include their pets, include their animals in
so
their
it's the family
sessions.
photos, but then the pets are part of that family, which they are, man.
Yeah.
Pets are a part of your family.
And there's some clients that I've photographed since the beginning, and I first photographed their dog. I then photographed, when they got engaged, done their wedding. Then I've gone on to maternity, newborn session, and each of those sessions, including their dog
There's
or
their
dogs.
pup along the way.
Yeah.
So,
That's nice.
yeah, so it's
I love when you
job.
do the senior dog shoots and stuff, and they're just. I know, like in certain circumstances, it's really kind of probably quite challenging, but just some of those older dogs and stuff that it's just the character. You know, puppies are always cute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But senior dogs just have like a whole character, and same with cats, and they get their greys and everything, and they just, I don't know, I love seeing it.
I don't think my dog would photograph well. Like before, when you did him when he was younger, and now that he's 11, like he has no eyes, barely any teeth. Like,
but to me, that's actually more exciting to me to photograph because I have more character. So a puppy is always, like, if we're talking about social media engagement photos, puppies are always going to be a
that's what we're talking about. Definitely.
We're definitely going to get to that.
But secondly, the older dog, the one that you can really get that character with, and like some dogs, I photographed a deaf dog recently, and he could hardly see me as well, but his treat sniffing ability was still
on
right
point.
up there. So, and then when he fixated on where the treat was coming from, it was just this intense stare, and
which would be awesome to photograph, like blue steel, man.
Yeah. So, and like humans, every dog or every cat or every chicken has got their own little personality, so that's the goal, is to try and get that to kind of shine through. So
because whenever you post your stuff, and I'll see there's the people with the baby or whatever, and I'm like, and then there's the dog one, I'm like, ooh.
And my social engagement numbers reflect that.
People like animals, man.
People like animals.
Animals are the bomb.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's all about coffee and hops. Fantastic. So we're going to get into your 5 complete tips.
Not 5-ish.
5-ish. 5 complete tips for getting photos for socials. So obviously people can always go and hire a photographer and do a content bank, and that's something that we'll say to people, it's not as expensive as you think to actually get a content, like your first initial starting one, do your action shots, your head shots or whatever, and then, every year, every 2 years, do a refresh and keep adding to it. And that's what keeps that content bank fresh and stuff. But for some people, first of all, it might, if you're starting out, or if you've just got a lot going on, or there's different reasons why it might be that you actually want to get those photos yourself.
Or even if you've already got that content library, but you're posting 5 times a week on social media, that's going to get drawn out really quickly.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's just, or even if it's just something's happening in the moment, and you're not going to be like, hey, Fee, quick, come on down because, we've just got this great prize that's arrived.
Chances are I won't be able to answer it.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be like, okay, I can come in 3 months and 5 days. Thanks a lot, Fee. But yeah, so the tips today are for people who they're not hiring professionals, or at least not doing it all the time, so they can actually get some really good visuals for their socials as well.
Just some tips. So number one, and photographers will bang on about it all the time, is lighting.
We bang on about it too. Like in marketing, but you know, for like video, everything, lighting is so fucking important.
Yes, and the difference between a badly lit photo and a brilliantly lit photo is just... Yeah,
it ups the quality of it so much.
But this is not lights on versus lights off or inside versus outside. There's actually more details.
Yes.
No, you just go outside and it's perfect.
So So what we mean by lighting doesn't necessarily mean lots of light. You don't necessarily want to hit every situation with lots of light. No spotlight.
It's not December.
So generally, you want a nice diffuse light. So you're probably... The exception to that is you've probably seen product photos recently where they're really playing up harsh lighting. So they might have product images with shadows and like they've been photographed under, you know, midday sun type thing. Works well for products, doesn't work well for people.
People, you want it to be flattering.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of supermodels just walking around everywhere. So the nicer lighting you can get on someone, kind of the more favours that you're doing them.
And even supermodels don't get lit with harsh midday.
But like, you know yourself, you don't like it when you're in the dressing room shopping and there's like fluoros everywhere and you're like, this looks like crap. I'm not
This is my best angle.
This is not working for me today. I'm not feeling it. It's the same with photos.
I like get ready at home and I'll like even put a bit of makeup on. I'll be like, oh yeah, I didn't do too bad a job just because I only do it once every 6 months. I'm keeping skills tight. And then you get to work and you're like, well, that's fucking shit out.
And it probably comes down to your lighting at work.
Yeah, exactly. We need better lighting at
work or the at-home lighting if she's not doing a great job.
She thinks she looks good at some point. Maybe that's the flattering ones at home.
I literally just pointed to the bathroom too. We're at my house.
So the best way to do it is a diffuse light. Diffuse natural light's the best way to go. So if you're doing it in a workshop, for instance, you might have a huge big roller door that opens up to the north or to the south. Awesome. Put whatever you're photographing back in so that it doesn't have direct light on them, but it has that light coming through the big workshop roller door.
So I would have the item there, then me, then the open roller door behind me.
You could shoot right on the roller door, just so that you're in between the light or the sun and the person or thing that you're photographing in.
Mm-hmm.
Same deal with windows, like window light or an office. If you've got north-facing windows or even southerly facing windows, technically because of the way that the sun sets, you won't ever get like this harsh light through there. So
it's just softer. And times of day as well.
If you've got north or south facing windows, it doesn't really matter. You should usually get a similar kind of light all day, which makes them awesome. And you'll find that photographers' studios and stuff like that will always have a big north-facing light because you'll hardly get like harsh light at many times of the day.
And what about when you are outside then?
So if you are outside, there's a couple of things you can do. You can either find open shade. So you want to go under a huge big tree that doesn't have dapple light. So dapple light's where you've got those
little peekaboo lights coming through and stuff, because then you're like sparkles on you.
Yeah. Horrible. Yeah.
It's not sparkles, it's mottles.
It does
I'm
make
marketing, I'll spin it any way I want.
What's wrong with their face? It's sparkles.
That's what I call my greys. I just have little sparkles through there.
Yes, that's mottled.
So photos.
You see your way, I'll see it my way.
So if you're outside, if you can get into some kind of open shade where you've still got that light coming onto you, so enough to make a photo that's not completely pitch dark without that mottling or sparkly light coming on the top of you. Or another thing you can do is you can buy a diffuser. Mm-hmm. Which can be an expensive photography item. Or
is that the big black thing with the... Yeah. We've got some of them.
Yeah.
It looks like an umbrella kind of thing or like a...
Yeah. Or you can just buy sheer white curtains from somewhere like Spotlight and get someone to hold it up just to take that
to diffuse the light. Yeah, right.
Yeah, or off whatever you're photographing.
Okay.
Yeah, like that, or try and make shadows and harsh light your friend and use them creatively.
But maybe not on people.
Maybe not on people. Yeah. So the important thing with lighting is that the human eye when it looks at an image, it instantly goes to the brightest part of that image first.
Right.
So you want whatever you're photographing to be somewhat the brightest or
to draw attention.
the most well lit part of that scene to draw your eye to it. So if you've got, if you're using something for social media, especially if it's products or something like that, you want that product to be quite well lit, and then you might have your edges or your background darken off slightly, but it's just something to keep in mind that
whatever the focus is should be the brightest.
You want it to be the brightest, the clearest, obviously in focus or nice and sharp if you can. Unless you're going in an artistic direction, and then and then have it pop off the background somehow, usually by making it lighter than the background.
And same thing, like if it is like taking photos of people and stuff, like you don't want their head to be in the shadowed part or something like that if there are shadows and everything, but like their face is going to be the most important part of that photo. So making sure that that's well lit, even if other bits of them are maybe a little bit dark or whatever, it's like as long as this is lit up, that's where your eye then gets drawn to.
Or if you're photographing a team of people, don't have one person really well lit underneath a overhead light and then the others fall away in shade, because then that one person will be the focus. And it's something that
it's just like a subtle power play. Maybe that's what they were going for.
And it's something that you won't necessarily get straight away, but when you start to look at photos and you go, oh, why does that photo work? It'll be because mainly all their faces are evenly lit. Or why doesn't that one, oh, that looks a bit crappy.
It's a bit stronger here and then darkens out.
Yeah, so it's just something as you're scrolling through your feed that you can even practice looking at. Oh, I wonder what they did there with all like lighting's crap
Sounds
or
like
whatever.
homework feed.
Yeah, that's homework from point number 1. But it is the best way to work out what you can do for your photos or what you can do to make them better as well.
Yeah. Lighting's just so important, man. But looking at things and going, why did that work? Why did that not work?
Can't exactly review your photos. You're zero inbox. Zero photo album.
I am too. I'm not just zero. I don't think you should have admitted that in front of me.
I think I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
So when people open their phone camera and they're like, oh, I'm just going to show this.
find this photo.
And they scroll back 3 months a month.
It's gone.
I back it up to my
friends anymore.
I have it all on Dropbox. I just don't keep photos or messages or emails or Messenger or anything on my phone. Or I just like things to be clear.
How do you share a photo of your cat?
I do it at the time and then I delete it. Once I've backed it up, it's not like it's deleted forever.
No. If I meet you and if I meet you at a bar and you tell me I've got this cute cat called Sonia, I'd love to see him.
No, I go, hey baby, come on home.
It works. The answer to that.
Of course, I don't have an answer to that. I'm not sure how you turn that down, but okay. You're going to go home with me.
See? Look, sets me up.
If it was a puppy, I think you'd have Fee.
I've met Sonie and...
Sonie's
all right. Sonie's all right. The other one.
Yeah, Will's a bit. I'd like to say she means well, but she really doesn't.
She doesn't.
No, she's just a cow.
All right, so tip number 1 is lighting. Tip number 2
is making your colours true. This is particularly important for product photography. So you want your customers to know exactly what they're getting.
Yeah.
So there's no point in taking a photo of a product that is actually like a deep blue and then it actually looks more green in your photo.
And even though it is just for socials, like obviously your website should be 100% on point, like realism as to what the product and stuff is. But just for socials, that's your opportunity to really showcase your products more and more.
Yeah.
And if you've got something where it's washed out from the light and so it looks more fadey or whatever than it is and stuff, it's just actually being, like I said, true to colour.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you say true to colour, that comes down to making sure you do have the right lighting, but also not editing the bejeevers out of your photo.
Exactly.
Yeah,
not
so no
applying weird filters.
Yeah.
Not applying weird filters. You'll also find that lighting, but you also want your light to be quite clear. So if you've ever tried to take photos under a fluorescent light, for instance, you'll notice...
Because they got that yellowy sort of tinge.
Yeah, they actually throw a green phase and a magenta phase and then a white yellowy white phase. So depending on when you've taken the actual photo, you could have gotten something that's a little bit more magenta than you would have liked, a little bit more green.
Does LED do the same thing? Because
no, LED are less likely to do that. But if you've got some old fluorescence or old mercury vapor type lighting, then that will definitely do that. So the best way, if you are taking photos of products, is to actually get, they're cheap on Amazon, but they're like a product photo box.
I've seen those. Yeah.
So they have a very
funny. We're in marketing. We've seen photo box. What a surprise for everybody.
Yeah. So they have a very clean white light that won't throw a different color cast on what you're photographing. And no shadows anywhere. So it's good for photos like on a website and stuff like that. But if you're wanting to take photos of a product, for instance, it's a bit more lifestyle-y, just keep that in mind. And you can get, if you're doing a lot of them, you can get like LED video lights, that type of thing, and then use that as your lighting so that you'll know that, and turn off, if you're doing it in a house, for instance, turn off all your room lights so that you don't get that weird colour.
Into that pure white or
and then
pure
just have that very clean light lighting up the scene that you're taking photos of.
Oh.
And if you have, and if you aren't quite sure, the other way to do it as well is to take a photo of your product or whatever you're taking a photo of with just an A4 piece of white paper in it. And then there's apps on your phone that you can get, and what you're looking for is something to adjust white balance.
Okay.
And what you do is
does that white piece of paper kind of provide sort of like a control group in the image?
It provides like a zero out of your the white balance. So if you've got that white and you know that it is truly white, then you know your product's the right colour in the photo.
Right.
Handy.
I mean, I know we said bring tips along, but like these are really good.
Yeah.
I feel like all they'd be shit, but like I'm learning stuff. It's good.
Yeah, Google white balance.
White balance.
Right.
Yes. White balance is the term that you're looking for. So getting that on point.
White balance. Number 3 we've got
is having authentic images. So this is more sort of an overall thinking that if you want customers obviously to buy from you, it's easier if they know. You want to take as much mystery out of it as possible.
Because when we see something in the store, we can pick it up and feel it and, you know, look at it and try it on, that sort of stuff. But
not the people if it's service-based.
What's this marketing person like?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. It's a good fit. But when it's, exactly, when we're buying something strictly online, we need to provide that sensory experience for people. And so I think it's so true, like taking photos of things, I'm trying to think of a better word for this and I can't, of like in their natural habitat.
Yes, like lifestyle type images, but also probably where I was more going was in terms of if they have to deal with somebody or interact with somebody from your business, if you show them what that person's going to looks like, it takes off, they already have this kind of
from a service-based perspective, it's like knowing the people who are doing the service, and then for products, it's sort of like, here's that product that is for the beach or whatever, actually out at the beach. Like, you're just going to get a better result because it's sort of, it's making people more familiar with the product and person.
And they'll work out if it's suited to them or not. Like, if you are petrified of the dentist and this dentist's point of difference is that it's a really welcoming, comfortable, cozy place, then you want
to... And you show photos of that.
Of the person, like, standing there with a client, like, talking to them or, you know, doing some research or whatever it might be, like, just depicting that person for who they are. But even just that face recognition thing, you know what I mean? Like it's
so don't be afraid to get your headshots done.
You have to get in front of the camera.
My last set of headshots, I've got short curly red hair.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to do another photo shoot.
I know. I've had so many different hairstyles. Maybe we shouldn't do me. Maybe it's just too much of a change. I don't know.
and that authenticity and getting is something that I also need to practice as well because I'm always behind the camera. So
I have seen more and more of your photos on social.
Stories. You do it for stories where someone will take a photo of you.
It's
so you don't make it, you might not do it as a post. You do it as a story. I love those ones. Like, there's Fee. There's my friend.
Oh dear.
This is why she doesn't do it.
But I have found that even since I put and it's an old headshot too. Even since I've put my headshot on just my email signature, I find that a lot of people are more likely to come up to me in different scenarios and go, oh, hey, such and such I was talking to you the other day about.
When we're babies, man, we're born to recognise faces. It's like one of our instinctual things. So seeing a face and memorising, we see it like every time you send me an email, I see your face over and over again.
Yeah.
Then when I first meet you in person, I'm going to feel like I know you because I recognise you, and it just creates that kind of stronger bond or that trust factor.
And if you haven't received an email signature from me, the headshot is actually me being licked by a dog. So that leads also into my branding. So
very more authentic. Very brand aligned. Well done. You get lots of gold stars for marketing.
And I do need to thank my sister for actually taking that, just in case she's listening.
Can't forget
that. And we go into that later. Fourth?
Yeah.
Yep.
Do it.
Okay. Having a consistent look to your images, and we touched on that before about filters and stuff like that. So every time you take a photo, don't use a different filter and then share it, unless that's what your
We're eclectic. We're crazy. You never know what you can expect from us because that's what you want in business. You want to do business with someone where you never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
People hate businesses that are consistent and professional.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Nasty.
So achieving that consistent look, and whether that's you're taking photos yourself, have a consistent way of either editing them or not editing them, but making sure that going back to lighting, that the lighting is kind of consistent through them. Or that the colours they're using are consistent or that type of thing.
Just something that makes them look like they don't have to match, but making it look like it's a set, like it's got that consistent element to it, just like you do with your wording and your branding and everything else. Your visuals also need to look like they've all, match.
So,
but match sounds like a strong word for it. You
don't want it to be match. No. You want it to be what was consistent. The word you used, consistent.
Yeah.
So when Jade, like we said earlier, offline, when Jade wasn't so great at taking her own photos for
I'm still crap at it, but I don't have to do it anymore.
No. We kind of took it away from her. Logged her out of Instagram.
Not quite that much.
But when she was taking her own photos and was struggling to find her skill set in that area.
Failing miserably.
Very well worded.
Shit house at it.
She was editing them so they were all black and white. So that created the consistent look.
Exactly.
It aligned with our brand. And we were able to continue on using social media. It's like, I'm not good at taking photos. Don't do it.
Yeah.
It's work out how to get better at it.
Yeah,
how to
it's
make it
a way of actually making it look consistent so it looked professional so that my shit photos wouldn't bring down the brand.
And black and white is the perfect way to make a whole heap of images consistent.
A hell of black and white photos, though.
Yeah.
It just adds something. Colour is awesome, but then black and white just has its own sort of depth and drama and, contrast and stuff.
Personally, if I could, I would actually be doing almost all black and whites, but
you get textures and stuff so much more, man.
Yeah.
Like it's just, I just think it's more interesting in a way.
Yeah, I do love black and white. And if you're using stock images as well, when you're selecting stock images, making sure that you're selecting ones that do look like they kind of go together, not, one that's super bold over here and then you're using one with like a matte like
and there's like a watercolory thing here and then these three have a blue filter and this one has like a green filter
and something we've struggled in the design aspect of using stock images is actually getting ones that look Australian and look like local work, which is why we recommend people get photos done professionally or learn how to use their own camera.
Yeah, especially if you're in a very specific kind of industry or market.
Yeah, like mining and industrial and stuff here. Like, honestly, that photo of the blonde chick with the hard hat and she's got a ponytail over her shoulder.
Yeah.
Seen that 50 million fucking times, even on government, like big, not local government, big government shit.
Yeah.
And then the one of the dude who's like a bit younger and gravelly and stuff and whatever as well. Same thing. I'm like, mate, I've been seeing you my whole career.
Yes.
Like, you must be fucking old by now.
Yes.
So, see, afterwards we need to talk about, like, making a stock image account and just really just taking some broad photos and selling them.
and there definitely, I think there definitely is a market for that because,
it's so difficult.
Yeah. And it's not the most interesting topic to photograph either. Like, guys and girls in hard hats.
Yeah.
Like it's...
or equipment with
Yeah.
You think that all looks the same until you're trying to look for stock images and you're like, no.
Oh my God. One the other day where someone's like, we need to make sure there's a water truck in this. And I'm like, what the fuck does that look like? I'm like, you might need to actually choose that one yourself because that's out the realm of my capabilities.
Yes, yeah. And if it might come down to if you need specific images like that you do need to actually hire like a one-off session and just knock out
get the
all
actual
of those
ones that you need so that you've got them.
Yeah.
I think that segues really well into our next point. No, I'm jumping ahead. I'll let you go. Getting excited.
Tip number 5, which is the last point.
Is to try and make your images attention grabbing. So obviously we're talking about
What do you mean? I want people to ignore my social media. That's why I put all the effort into it. Fiona, what is this magic?
Scroll past. Just scroll past. So a couple of little tips to make them attention grabbing is to not take your photos necessarily from the same height all the time. I had a photography mentor once say to me that if she can tell your height from your portfolio or gallery, it's bad.
Oh, yeah. Right. Actually, a friend of mine was telling me that she was going to Paris for the first time and she'd always dreamed of going or whatever. And so she did some photography skills or like course or whatever beforehand sort of thing. And so she said like she was practicing, it was the first time, but she's like, I spent most of my time in Paris on the ground, like looking up at things.
Yeah.
Her photos are amazing. Like down, because obviously we don't actually get fucking autumn here.
Yeah.
And she was there during the fall and autumn, sorry, I'm not American. And, you know, all of the changing colour leaves and stuff down this thing. But because she's down here looking at, it's just so fascinating. And it's just like a bunch of trees.
Yeah. But don't take photos of people down low. You get like double chins.
You can to a point. I wouldn't say always, say never. It depends on
Some
the
people
height.
deserve it, obviously. That's what
It depends on the positioning of the face and stuff like that without going into too much of that detail. But for any photos that you're taking, a good rule of thumb is to shoot how you would normally, then shoot lower, shoot higher, shoot further away, and shoot super close up.
Oh, so you don't just take one photo and then you're done.
No, keep going, keep
This
going.
is actually starting to sound like effort.
Yeah, it is a little bit of effort.
I thought photography was just rock up, snap, 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 and go home.
Yes.
Delete.
Yeah. It's easy.
Yeah.
Anyone can do it.
Yeah. Well, anyone can.
If they're going to put the effort in.
But there is a bit of effort involved. And
I really like that. That's a cool idea.
Get low,
I'll try
get
that
high,
now.
get close, get far is something that I'm always constantly reminding myself in shoots, because you can also get quite caught up in what's happening and what you usually always do.
I've seen you in shoots though, man. Like, you're energetic. Like, you're like down and up and you're like on the ground. And
I'm more of a get low kind of a girl than a get high. But then again, most of my subjects are low, so I want to get low or lower than them.
Yeah.
And likewise, you know, drone photography is huge. And that's all about, you know, that get high, you know,
super high.
And getting it from a different perspective is amazing. Because, like you said, Jade, we see everything from our height where we are.
It's just a perspective shift, and perspective shift, when you think about it, when you're scrolling through socials, it attracts your eye because it's different from what you normally see.
Exactly, and that's what makes it that sort of attention grabbing. Just a couple of other ones is maybe, you know, if you're taking a product photo, take it off center. So you've got a fair bit of white space or spare space off to one side. With your social media feeds being so busy, if you have like a
little bit.
Yeah, a rectangle that's, you know, fully bright pink, but then it's got just like this tiny little bottle of something off to one side.
It's going to bring your eye over to that.
It scrolls and gets them out of that scrolly type feed.
And those photos come in use for websites and other marketing materials.
As well,
Exactly. And the final tip of that is if you can include an animal, I can talk from first experience.
I love this tip. This is my favourite tip.
I can speak from personal experience with my socials that anytime I include a cute animal of any kind, my engagement goes through the roof.
Yeah.
And you'll see that a lot of like huge companies and stuff like that have started to try and, you know, break into that, even when their business doesn't necessarily involve animals.
Yeah.
You've got this.
So bring your pet to work day needs to be strongly highlighted on the calendar.
Exactly. Yep. Anytime you can involve them, and if you've got a work mascot or whatever like that, include them on social.
Like an office dog.
An office dog.
Look, I've been trying. The team know I've been trying.
In saying that, my poor 2 office dogs don't get a lot of attention because they're not very easy to photograph.
They probably don't mind though, like the whole not being photographed.
Oh no, they don't mind it whatsoever. So
Sam was so photogenic too.
Yes, Sam, he was.
No, that's a really good point because I think most people notice with their own social media is that when they actually use photos of people and their faces that they do really well. So like that pets is kind of that next step up.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if it's unexpected as well. I think it's relatively expected on my account now, but if you're an engineering company or something like that, and all of a sudden you're sharing it, you're like, oh, gee,
that one's gonna go off.
Guarantee it.
So the Mackay region's just gonna start popping up all these pet photos on their socials.
I mean, if we can start that as a trend, then this podcast has been worth it every day.
Yes, I might actually jump on my socials a bit more.
Cool. Okay, awesome. So 5 very good tips with even more tips in amongst them all as well. That was really great.
Lots of homework.
Yes, lots of homework.
So our wrap-up tip today was something a little bit different. So we had Ange from Wallace & Wallace on recently. She's a solicitor. We're marketing people, and we talked about where these things come together. And one of the things we did talk about was copyright, but we didn't actually go into photo licensing. And I know this is something that you actually taught me. Yep. So like when I was first starting out, like I was always using you for photos and everything, and you very nicely, patiently, and probably multiple times explained to me, well, not everything sinks in first time. Explain to me how photo licensing works and that ownership thing, because it's one of those things where people have a perception that if I'm in the photo, you take a photo of me, that's my photo.
Yeah. So that's not actually the case. So if it's regardless of whether the person is a professional photographer or taking photos on their phone, whoever takes the photo has the copyright. So
they own it because they're the ones who created it. No matter what the subject is, they created that piece, whatever it is.
Now, if they have taken a photo of somebody and they want to use that photo for commercial purposes, they should have a model release or some kind of a release to say
permission.
Permission to say that, hey, it's okay that you can use my photo.
Which is what we do the photo release for.
Don't just take photos of random people on the street and then use them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
you don't have the right to use other people's.
Street photography is a whole other.
Yeah, because they do like street fashion and all sorts of stuff. But in general, you can't promote your business by taking your photos of people without their permission.
Exactly. Yeah. So as a photographer, I retain copyright of any image that I take, and then clients who hire me for personal use, they get a personal reproduction license. So they don't ever get copyright, but I give them permission to then use that image.
They might get canvases printed or things printed, but if they were like, actually, I'm now going to start a business and I'm going to have this be the signage up front or something.
They can't do that. So
they don't have the commercial
license to do that. And every photographer is different, and just the way that I operate is that I have a personal licensing or commercial licensing. So if you're going to use it for business purposes, you need to have the commercial licensing, pay that little bit more for it.
And it's not like it's astronomical, but it is. No. It's an extra cost.
It is an extra cost. So,
and to be fair, if you're going to make money off something, maybe you should pay for the right to make money off it.
Yeah. So with personal licensing, I say, they can print however they like. This is just me. A lot of photographers still go with an old model where you pay for the photographer to give you your prints and canvases, etc.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily get digitals, but in my case, I give digitals, but it's on a basis that it's personal reproduction, print however you like. But if you share on social media, you need to have either my watermark on it or you need to tag that I'm the photographer, because I still retain copyright. So then with commercial licensing, if you're engaging a photographer for commercial purposes, you need to find out from them beforehand what you can actually do with the images.
Yeah.
how long you can do that for,
Good point.
Right.
and where you can use them.
Yeah.
There's still stuff I don't know.
Yeah. So commercialized, typically if you're going to go through someone like Getty Images,
Yeah.
quickly you'll work out it's very expensive to have a commercial license of an image that you can do anything with forever.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so with my clients, I'll always go, okay, you've paid extra, you've got a commercial license, you can do whatever you like with that image, including add a weird ass filter on it if you like.
Preferably not, but whatever.
Yeah, preferably not. But if
That's what you're going for.
That's what I'm going for. Yeah,
do.
that's what you want to do. And then I say that it's in perpetuity, so it's forever. You'll find a lot of photographers will go, you can use said images for...
They'll have a list.
Yeah, and they'll have a list that you can use it on website and in print, but you can't use on social media. Or you can use on social media website, but if you're going to print them or use on a billboard, that's an additional expense.
Yeah.
Right.
So you need to find out, whenever you're engaging a photographer for business purposes, exactly what you can and can't do. And if they go, oh, God, I don't know,
Yeah.
then it's likely that they don't know about licensing either,
Yeah.
and that you need to get that sorted before you actually pay them
Engage
and do
them
any
to
shoot.
do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
clarify what you're planning on doing with. And but the
100%.
thing is, like,
Yeah.
if you have a stock image library, you know, you might go back and celebrate, 30 years ago, or some
exactly.
old stuff and reuse it.
Yeah.
You don't want to be getting in trouble down the track.
No, so as a first thing, you want rights to them forever.
Yeah.
Or in perpetuity, you want them forever. And ideally, you want to be able to use them on social media and website and in print without having to go back to the photographer every time. The part where I draw the line usually is you can't then go and on-sell those images to anybody.
No.
So you can't then, if you're an engineering firm and I've taken some photos for you, and then you can realise, oh, hello, these are big, great stock images.
Yeah.
No, you can't upload them to a stock site.
Because you actually still retain the original ownership, for want of a better term.
So I have the copyright. So it's little things like that you need to make sure, and that's probably the biggest point, is this: whenever you engage a photographer, make sure you know exactly what images you will be getting and what you can actually do with them.
Yeah.
I suppose. And you can't just pass them on to whoever you like to use.
That's another big one that we get to, is like people wanting to use, if they are at this business or they might be on this committee or something, and that organisation gets professional photos, and then that person might leave or, might have their own business, and they want to use those photos that, first of all, they didn't pay for, but secondly, they don't have the copyright for, but because it's of them, they want to then use it in other places.
Yeah. And there's no reason, I'll just go on to a point there. So I've had the situation plenty of times where I've had a session for a family or for a wedding. Weddings are the worst. Yeah. So I've had for a wedding.
Just in general. It's generally shit.
No. It's just a lovely family celebration. Everyone's having fun.
No stress for anybody.
And the couple will then go and forward their gallery onto their wedding vendors. Then those vendors use the images from the session
to showcase what their work was, which is commercial purposes.
And they don't tag the photographer. So that is probably the most blatant case of it that we have locally, is particularly in the wedding industry.
Yeah.
So if you're a business and a client or someone has given you images to use, it's your responsibility before you share it to make sure that you have permission to share it.
Yeah, and that's not asking the person who's given it to you. That's asking
the photographer. Yeah, you need to go back to their photographer and ask them.
Yeah.
So it's only just been recently that I send out a blatant thing to all I get all the vendor information for a wedding, and I will send them, this is what you can and can't do with these images, because I'm fine about if they want to share them and they want to tag Coffee and Hops as the photographer.
That's great for social media.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. But just don't go share the image with absolutely no reference back to who the photographer was. That's not cool. And the one other thing I was going to, and I can't remember it now. We touched on it before, and now it's gone.
Don't expect me to remember what I said now.
So one thing I was thinking of, like we were talking about photos for social media, is your staff taking photos on their phone or whatever device that they've got for workplace use. That's all covered under the workplace agreement. Like, that kind of copyright. The person doesn't go, I have these, I'll sell them to you, boss.
Yeah, it comes onto that intellectual
God, I hope not.
Yeah, and
I can't take good photos. I'm the only person who can't in the whole office.
And no, but that was something we did touch on with Ange. If it's done at work, it's work.
Owns it. Yeah. See, you applying different stuff to connecting dots. Look at you go.
Clearly it's sunk in.
Yeah.
With you.
because it comes an intellectual property.
Yeah.
So it's, in previous career, if I design software, which that wasn't mine, it becomes
property
of the person I was working for.
Which I still think is shit. I do remember that conversation now. Like, I get it, but at the same time, like, just because you're employed by someone, if you create something, you create it. Like, I don't know, just...
They give you money to do that. That was how that arrangement was.
Says the boss of the marketing company.
I know.
Money is such a low value thing compared to creating something. Like,
but they potentially trained you how to do that as well.
Looks
like there's a few grey areas there, Jane.
Slightly off topic though.
All right.
Okay, cool.
Fantastic. Well, if you haven't had a chance to remember, I think that's all we've got time for today.
That's it.
That's okay.
That's right. We can always add it in the show notes, man. That's the best thing about these things. Yeah. Is we're like, what was that thing again? That episode? We don't know. We'll just put it in the show notes.
And by we mean Jade.
Yeah. And by Jade, we mean Hayley.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Fiona. We love having you.
Where's the margaritas?
Why didn't you bring them?
I didn't know it was a BYO situation.
Of course it is. My goodness. Such high expectations from guests. We brought all of this.
Okay, gotcha.
We'll make sure to tag you in the post.
Excellent. Good.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing your tips on photos for social.
No worries. My pleasure.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Marketing and Margaritas. Find more free marketing tips, tricks and laughs at rebelnation.com.au.